I will give it another minute and start my introduction. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Bob McGarry. I'm First Selectman in Haddam. I'd like to welcome you to this meeting. This meeting is intended to primarily be an exchange of information between businesses and Department of Transportation on the scheduling of the roundabout work. Two roundabouts, as I'm sure you know, are being built on Bridge Road and 154, and then 154 and the connector to Route 9. This meeting came about because Irene Haynes, First Selectwoman in East Haddam, and I heard concerns legitimately being raised by the business as far as scheduling and potential impact for this project, particularly following on the heels of the swing bridge work. So with the help of the River Cog and Sam Gold, the executive director is here representing them, as well as Eliza, who's helping run this seminar. We approached DOT and they've agreed to meet with you, lay out. They've got a few ways that they can schedule the phases in this project to see which would be the least impactful to the business. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming, particularly DOT. I'm going to turn it over in a minute to Joseph Jesuit, who's the project manager for DOT. Joe will take you through a quick overview of the project, and then we'll open it up for questions and comments. If you'd like to make two ways you can do that. You can either type your comments into or questions into the chat function, and they'll be read out, or you can raise your hand and we will call on you. I assume everyone's familiar with Zoom, but for those of you who may not be, if you move your cursor, a bar opens up at the bottom of the screen and you can see the icon for raising your hand or the icon for the chat. Please use one of those. With that, Joe, let me turn it over to you for your overview and introduction.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, let's share my screen. So again, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending today's stakeholder outreach, construction and coordination for State Project 60 and 160 modern roundabouts at Route 82 or Route 154 in the town of Haddam. So just brief agenda, going to be kind of a brief presentation that we'll be covering tonight. Bob just said his introductions and opening remarks. We'll be covering our project location and the purpose for our project, as well as we'll also be reviewing the existing conditions of the assets that are currently out there, where design is at currently, and the funding for the project. We'll review the proposed improvements, discuss the color plan, as some of you have seen in past presentations. As also, we'll discuss construction and coordination and activities specific regarding those community concerns and those schedule of activities. And then we'll open it up for discussion. So this project is located in the town of Haddam. We're going to primarily be talking about two intersections. The first one is the northern intersection, which is where Route 82, Bridge Road intersects Route 154, Saybrook Road. Also in the vicinity of that intersection is Old Chester Road. It's currently a signalized intersection that's teed up, as well as the southern intersection where Route 154 and Saybrook Road meets the Route 82, Route 9 connector. So if those of you that had the opportunity to attend our stakeholder outreach meeting back in May of 2021, and also our virtual public informational meeting conducted in June of 2021, our project purpose might look familiar to you. Obviously, we want to increase safety in this corridor by reducing vehicle speeds and reducing the number of vehicle conflict points that are currently at the intersection, as well as increased sidewalk connection within the corridor. There's some existing sidewalks that were constructed under other state projects, as well as other recent developments that were put in. So we want to kind of close those gaps. Is also, we want to improve traffic operations by reducing vehicle queues and delays that are experienced here, as well as Bridge 622, which we'll be talking about over the proposed improvements, needs to be replaced due to its structural condition. So a little bit of review about the assets that are currently out there. Bridge 622 carries Route 82 154 over Clark Creek. It was constructed back in 1930. Based off the latest bridge inspection report in 2021, there should be a new report coming out within the coming months. It was rated structurally deficient. The superstructure and deck both received a rating of 4 out of 9, which is in poor condition, as well as the existing signal at Saybrook Road and Bridge Road. It was installed in 1994. Currently at this time is 29 years old. It's kind of well beyond its service life, so it needs some attention to it and replacement, as well as the pavement that is currently out there was last resurfaced in 2012, 2013, part of the maintenance VIP program, as well as the sidewalks that I talked about earlier. There's many connections and gaps that are kind of omitted, that sidewalks lead to nowhere. So currently, based off of our latest public outreach, our stakeholder meeting, we've finalized our design. Just this past week, we delivered final contract documents over to our internal DOT processing unit in order to get those ready to be advertised. Permit applications have been submitted to regulatory agencies back in May, and we're anticipating approval within the coming months, as well as our rights-of-way office is in the final acquisition phases of property that has to be acquired as a result of this project, and that should be completed by the end of July. As well as our funding, we're currently in 2023, we have a partnership with Federal Highway with 80% and then 20% state. So there's obviously federal shares that are at stake in order for this job to proceed forward. So I just kind of wanted to review the color plan in a little bit more detail for those of you that have not seen this or had the opportunity. This is the overall project color plan. Here's Bridge Road. Here's the Route 9 connector. I'm just going to zoom into each one and we'll talk about each one individually. So here at Bridge Road, Saybrook Road, we're proposing to replace the existing signalized intersection with a modern roundabout. It'll be a single lane roundabout, splitter islands on all approaches. We have a central island that will have landscape features, plantings. There's been discussions about including a welcome to Tylerville sign in there, as well as this project will require the construction of a retaining wall here and the closure of Old Chester Road. Also, driveway aprons will be reconstructed, as well as the sidewalks will provide connection to the existing sidewalks that are located on Bridge Road, as well as the existing sidewalks that are currently at the apartment complex to the northern limits of our project. Moving on to the southern roundabout, the main focus here is we'll be constructing a new bridge, 622. This is upstream of the existing bridge offline, as well as also we'll be providing sidewalk access, splitter islands as well here, and landscape treatment in the central island, truck aprons. As a part of our stakeholder outreach, as well as our public informational meeting, the Clark Creek Cascades, we've recognized that there's been a draw to the local community. So as part of our outreach, it was suggested to include a parking lot to allow the community to access these cascades and park there and connect there via trail network or the sidewalks. So we saw that as an added benefit for the project. In terms of construction coordination, those of you that attended the stakeholder meeting, a lot of this wording will look the same, except as the designs progress, we would have the opportunity to refine it. So two-way traffic will be maintained during AM and PM peak hours. And those hours are defined on the weekdays from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning and 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the evening. And during the weekends, traffic will be maintained normal operations from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Outside of those hours, during off-peak hours, as we refer to those, alternating one-way traffic will be utilized utilizing and establishing a construction zone and having flaggers at either side. No full roadway closures with detours will take place as a part of this project. And as much work as possible when we developed our suggested construction sequence plan and staging, we wanted to do as much work offline as possible. So offline work constituted as outside the existing roadway. So we'll talk through a couple of examples of that, being the proposed bridge, as well as the northern retaining wall. That was kind of for two reasons, obviously to minimize disruption to the traveling public, but also it allows the contractor more of a safer and better production and work zone because he can work offline. He doesn't have to maintain traffic. As well as driveway access will be maintained to the local businesses and residences during construction. And for those driveways that are reconstructed during construction, obviously coordination would occur between the contractor and those local businesses and residents, notifying them of when those operations would take place. So I just wanted to talk through a couple of examples at each roundabout of what offline work could potentially look like. So here's our northern roundabout. During this stage, we'll be constructing down here in the corner our retaining wall that we previously discussed. So obviously this is behind, this orange line represents concrete barrier. So it's all offline work. The existing traffic will be maintained on the existing roadway. There obviously be times that traffic might be halted in order to get construction vehicles into the work zone, but we're anticipating that normal traffic operations would be maintained during this operation. Similarly, at the bridge at the southern roundabout, all offline upstream of the existing bridge. Traffic would be maintained in the existing roadway footprint while the bridge is being constructed. And these two aspects of the job have long durations. So it's a benefit that we're able to perform as much of this work offline while minimizing disruptions. Here's an example of alternating one way. So here the work zone would be established. On either side, there would be flaggers directing traffic. Per our contract provisions, that work zone can only be a maximum of 300 feet in length and 700 feet in length when only paving operations are occurring. And again, those are during those off-peak hours. Same situation at the southern roundabout when we're rebuilding up this approach. So here is the current project schedule for both the roundabout project and the swing bridge project. For those of you that had the opportunity to attend our stakeholder outreach and view our virtual public informational meeting, during those presentations, we were showing more concurrent work that we were both overlapping, but this is the most up-to-date schedule. So we have our construction for the roundabout project starting in the spring of 2024 and then being completed by the fall of 2025. And we are currently in active construction on the swing bridge project with anticipated construction completion in February of 2025. So as Bob mentioned earlier, we are going to lay out two options regarding construction staging that the department has explored. Currently, this is what we have in our contract for construction activities. So I was going to kind of walk through that. But before I do, the reason why this was the preferred option, I just wanted to cover that first. So that the order of activities that we're going to outline was selected as the preferred option because it allowed for the most amount of separation between when we're working on various intersections in relation to the swing bridge project, as well as the added benefit is that we allow the contractor to only disrupt one intersection at a time and the other intersection can maintain normal traffic operation. So what does that look like? So in the 2024 season, the main activities that would only occur at the northern roundabout would be their construction of the retaining wall. And obviously that, as previously discussed, that's all offline work. The existing roadway footprint and traffic is maintained in there, as well as the construction of the new bridge and the parking lot. Also in 2024, we'd be constructing the southern roundabout. And the benefit of constructing the southern roundabout first was that due to alternating one-way traffic patterns that are deployed on the swing bridge and it being 0.6 of a mile away. During some activities, queues could form. So we want to allow as much of a gap between construction activities because we don't want to have overlap in patterns that lead to driver confusion. So following the 2024-2025 winter shutdown period, the roundabout at the southern intersection would be complete. And then the contractor will move on to the northern roundabout, building up the grades, establishing the circulatory roadway and tying in, and then doing a general mill and fill paving project wide to connect the two roundabouts together. We also have a section option that it's less desirable due to the fact just the sequence of work. So again, in 2024, we'd be performing both the retaining wall and the bridge, both offline work, maintaining traffic within the existing roadway footprint. However, during the 2025 season, both roundabouts would have to be working concurrently. This is not as desirable due to the fact it requires a larger contractor to be mobilized, multiple construction crews, additional coordination in MMPT, as well as just a larger disruption within the corridor instead of it being localized to specifically to one intersection. So with that, I thank everyone for listening. I'm going to turn it over to Eliza to open it up for questions.
Yep, I will. If you could stop sharing your screen, Joe, that would be helpful for me. So if anyone has any questions as an attendee, please use the raise hand feature or put it in the chat. I'm not seeing anyone right now.
So I see Irene, so we'll recognize Irene. Go ahead, Irene.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much. In conversations that we've been having about the roundabouts, one of the questions that I had, and I wanted to get your plan that you shared with us at the last meeting so that I could take a look at it. And you guys probably are the best people to answer this question. Why is this roundabout only one lane? Because I guess my thought is that when the bridge is closed, traffic stops, it builds up. Whether the roundabout is there or not, it's still going to stop. And it's going to stop. The unfortunate part about it is that if people are coming down, either way, it stops because the bridge is open. So to, boat traffic. So how does this roundabout work when the bridge is open?
So I can speak to that a little bit. One of the hopes is that traffic will be picking up.
Joe, your connection is not very good.
Maybe can handle this.
Yeah, I'll answer it. So this conversation and question's been posed many times. So obviously, as a part of the improvements that are made to the swing bridge, there is the cycle improvements as well as the dependability of the structure being more of a reliable and not being stuck open due to vessel traffic passing. We did look at providing basically what you're referring to as a bypass lane, which would allow for storage as well as for vehicles to peel off in order to queue up on Bridge Road. But the amount of right-of-way impact that would be associated with establishing that in conjunction with that we were having improved reliability of the bridge, we didn't feel like it was necessary based off of our traffic analysis. We asked our traffic unit to plug in based off of cycle times for the bridge, how long the cycle takes to open, as well as based off of our traffic volumes at various points throughout the day to see where that queue would be forming. And we weren't seeing a backup and residual being caused there that was any worse than a conventional signalized intersection.
I see Representative Christine Palm has her hand raised.
Yes, hi folks. Can you hear me okay? I don't see a camera function.
Yep.
Yes, we can. We can hear
Hey,
you.
Sam. Hey, Sam. I'm here. Hi, Irene. Thank you, DOT and everybody for doing this. 2 quick questions, or one question with part A and B. Do you have examples anywhere in our region where there are 2 roundabouts this close together that work successfully? That's part 1. And part 2 of my question is, as the work on Route 9 through the downtown of Middletown progresses, will there be any anticipated effect on the roundabouts, especially the one at the terminus of the Route 9 exit ramp? Thank you.
I can speak just anecdotally about roundabouts in close proximity. Our friends at DOT may have examples in Connecticut, but outside New York, DOT has built a huge number of roundabouts, particularly in the Albany area where my parents live. And there's they have a chain of 5 roundabouts in this is on New York State Route 85, and they work quite well. So they can so a series of roundabouts can work well because they allow for a free flow of traffic, whereas signalized intersections aren't as efficient in moving traffic through the intersections. But I don't know if DOT, if you have some examples of roundabouts in close proximity here in Connecticut.
Yeah, I think one that comes to mind, we have one that was constructed on State Route 94 in Glastonbury. There's 2 on Hebron Avenue, and that's been in operation for a couple of years now, as well as we also are proposing multiple roundabouts at Route 82 in Norwich, and that's currently in design. And then in terms of the additional capacity, with I believe how you're referring to vehicles and improvements that are made in the Middletown corridor, our traffic volumes are projected out 20 years. So that accounts for additional growth that is that the region is expected. So our analysis accounts for that.
Thank you. Sam, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
So a follow-up question then would be, right now when you're driving down 154, often there's back-to-back traffic on that route. What I'm asking is, we won't have a situation where the traffic in the Route 9 terminus roundabout is actually bumper to bumper in the circle, right? Like people coming off the highway will just, the backup or the line of traffic will accrue on the exit ramp itself, rather than people entering the roundabout and then getting stuck. I hope I'm making sense there.
Are you concerned about the traffic backing up all the way to the expressway?
No, I'm concerned about the confusion of traffic being congested in a roundabout itself, in a circle of cars, versus waiting your turn at a red light. Even if there are many cars in line, we all know what to do when we come to the end of a route or a T stop or a traffic stop or a stop sign. Since roundabouts, you enter it before you fully. I sometimes feel like before you fully know what's going on, and I'm worried then you get stuck in the circle.
I think in regard to that roundabout on the southern roundabout, I don't think it would be an issue, just because there's plenty of space to the north and south for cars to move more freely. And so I wouldn't envision anyone needing to stop in the roundabout. I know the concern that was raised by the first selectwoman was, and the first selectman of Haddam, was the backup on Bridge Road, and if that backup ever would hit the roundabout, what would happen then? But for the southern roundabout, I don't foresee there necessarily being a risk of it backing up into the roundabout and shutting it down.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Sam. And I'm assuming Bob McGarry is on this call. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
if,
Oh, he is.
yeah.
Yeah, I am, Irene.
No,
Oh,
no,
no,
hey,
no,
Bob,
Christine.
it's Christine.
Christine, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay, hon. Just wondering if people in Tylerville have had some adequate input into this situation. Has there been a charrette or any kind of public meeting, or is this it? Is this the first one?
Yeah, so I'll speak to that. So a part of our initial, when we did our initial town roads meeting back in April of 2021, there's numerous town road meetings before that with the previous administration, but we wanted to have a setting prior to going to the general public, specifically to meet with the local business community. And that was orchestrated through Haddam and then the local Middlesex Chamber of Commerce. Rivercog attendees were on, as well as then obviously following that meeting, we did our virtual public informational meeting in June of 2021. So this is,
thanks. I'm just concerned, as I think we all are, about the Bridge Street merchants. Thank you.
okay.
And I can add to that, if I would, is that some of the meetings that we had before was way prior to us even thinking about what this bridge construction would be. And I think that's where the new alarm is in regards to these roundabouts. And we've discussed this with DOT, and through those discussions with DOT, that's why this meeting is happening, because we do understand now much more than we did before when we talked about these roundabouts, the actual pain that everybody's going through in regards to not only the businesses in Tylerville, but the businesses over in East Haddam, because we're all struggling here because of the bridge construction. And this is a 2-year project, et cetera, et cetera. So until we actually got to those pain points where, the bridge is closed down for 63 hours at a time, and then we're going to finally get out of this after we just left COVID, and now we're going to go into a roundabout, the pain is heartfelt. And so this is why this kind of new alarm in regards to the roundabout project. Not that we don't necessarily want the roundabouts, and we do want the roundabouts, but also just, again, the pain of the bridge construction now. We're seeing it, we're feeling it. It's hurting like heck. And, we need to have this further conversation. And also, this is for the businesses to be able to speak up. And we'd love to hear from you guys as far as if we were to change the way the project will go forward with the two options that DOT led out to, started this conversation with, whether or not they do one versus the other, 1 year going out the second year, whether they do on-road stuff first and off-road stuff next, whatever it is. If any of the businesses could chime in as far as how they feel in regards to what's the best way of doing this. Should we hold off getting into Bridge Street intersection, or should we do, one and then the other? So that's what we're really looking for. And we really would love that opinion. If they can give it to us tonight, that's great. If they want to think about it a little bit and then let us know, that would be good too. But we really want to get some businesses and that. There is a question in the chat that I think warrants to be asked, which is, are we taking into account, and how are we doing this when we think about this continual traffic? If this all works and it's working great, how do you get out of Dunkin' Donuts and go back to East Haddam with this continual traffic? Now we have a light that stops the traffic, and there's a break, or get into any of the businesses. That might be something that maybe DOT can speak to directly. Thank you.
So thank you, Irene. There's a few questions in the chat. So I think because Irene mentioned the second question from Lauren, why don't we see if we can address that? And I don't know if you have any comments on that about the flow of traffic.
Yeah, so we've been out on site many times. Just actually, we were out there one time recently when the bridge was open for vessel traffic, just to see how far it queued up. But it was surprising to see how fast the queue actually cleared. So we are aware of traffic spacing, as well as just the overall roundabout benefits from a safety perspective, as well as an operations perspective. Like, lights inherently go through cycles, have green time versus red time idling vehicles, where roundabout allows more for free flow vehicles. So if there's a gap in the circulatory roadway, and and those drivers on an approach, they're obviously yielding before they enter. It allows for traffic to clear a little bit faster. I'm just going to share my screen in terms of the first question. I'm not sure. So that was regarding the sidewalks at the Southern Roundabout. So this is our overall color plan. So the sidewalk network is put around as kind of the department's policy to install sidewalks around circulatory roadways for the ability for pedestrians to traverse through the intersection, but also for inexperienced bikers that are traveling along the corridor that don't feel comfortable taking the lane. They can dismount, walk around the circulatory roadway and continue on. Basically, the question was asked, the sidewalks kind of end at this parking lot, and why don't they extend and connect to the next roundabout? So we had some internal conversations amongst the department and then the town, and it was initially decided due to the additional maintenance that we would not be closing those gaps as a part of this project. There's a wider shoulder out there, but that's the reason why the sidewalks termini are where they're currently at today.
So I see a follow-up question from Lauren regarding pulling out in traffic. I know that there have been a number of roundabouts installed on other state roads in other parts of the state. Have you seen or heard of there being issues with cars now having trouble pulling out because of the more consistent flow of traffic, as opposed to the pulse of traffic that you get with the traffic signal cycle?
I'm not aware of that. As a part of our project, we are closing the entrance to the Tylerville Village Plaza here. Typically, you want to have entrances and exits on the downstream side of traffic to allow for mobility to go in and out of these locations. So you can see that we provided additional or maintained the existing driveway access here, which is on the downstream side, allow for additional sight distance. But again, vehicles are traveling through here. They're reducing speeds to that 15 to 25 mile per hour range when they're entering the circulatory roadway, versus I believe speeds here are posted around 45 miles per hour. So there should be a larger time gap for vehicles to exit.
I see another question in the chat, which is, has state funding for this project been committed?
Yeah, yes, the answer to that is there was additional funding required due to increase in utility costs, and as well as our design has progressed, which kind of caused, as what was discussed earlier in their meeting, to have additional funding signed off by the local council of governments. But state funds are available for this project and committed.
Yeah, and then
oh, sorry, Tim.
I was just going to say, and then a follow-up from Kate. Are there any factors that could delay the project schedule that was presented tonight?
So as outlined earlier, we delivered our project contract development. We still have outstanding permits that need to get signed up by the regulatory agencies, but we're anticipating that within the coming months. At this time, I'm not aware of any other things that would cause a delay.
And then Lauren had a follow-up in the chat with suggestions of, I guess, difficulties of making turns out of driveways currently at a couple locations. Are there additional questions either in the chat, or people want to raise their hands to be recognized to speak? I remember seeing, I think someone had their hand raised. Oh, I see Edward Munster, followed by Edward Munster. If you could, I think you have to unmute your Zoom, Edward, and you'll be able to speak.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I know that it's been mentioned that bypass lanes would be critical to making this effective for those of us who go by that intersection often. We see the buildup that happens during the summer when the boats are going through and the bridge is opening. I understand that there, I'm hearing through the grapevine that there could be some delay in funding, which might give an hour, a period of time before you get started again to rethink the concept of whether bypass lanes would be useful, particularly when you're going south on 154 and trying to get through those two circles. It would seem to me if there was a bypass lane on the right-hand side where you could get through those and get up onto Route 82 and get out to the Route 9 highway, that would be great. And I think the same thing is true as people are coming down Ridge Road to have a bypass lane that would allow you to go north on 154. I'm sure that there are other instances where bypass lanes could be useful. I know that I've heard it said that it would involve taking more land, but that I'm not sure whether you can figure out a way to do it. But those are critical things right now. As you traverse those intersections, people are effectively making extra lanes to get through the intersection by passing on the right-hand side of cars that are stopped for the bridge traffic that is stopped going up Route 9, up Route Bridge Road, that is. So anyway, I just want to comment and encourage that bypass lanes be reconsidered, please.
Thank you for your comment. As a follow-up for the question I have for DOT is, what is considered for the design of the center of the roundabout? Would it be something that an emergency vehicle would be able to get on or over in case there was a backup? Does it have mountable curbs?
So yes, the truck apron itself has a mountable curb, basically a 2-inch reveal. So they'd be able to mount that area, traverse through there. You're not able to traverse through the center of the roundabout because part of the design is you want to kind of inhibit sightline because you don't want to increase vehicle speed. So that whole area of the center island of the roundabout is all landscaped area. So this would be a mountable area that vehicles, if there was a crash that could occur, they could get around that location.
Thank you.
And I see another question in the chat. Is DOT aware of plans for the proposed Heritage Trail, a 3-town multi-use pedestrian and bike path, which includes East Haddam, Haddam, and Chester, and this trail will pass through the roundabouts?
I am not aware of that. I don't know. I don't know what division, what office that's coming through, but that is something we can definitely follow up on. But it sounds like we're a lot farther on our design than they are.
And Sam, there's a question in the chat about extra funding that was mentioned that's coming from the COG.
Yes, I can address that. So this meeting was facilitated by our first selectman who sit on the COG board. River COG has a role for approving the spending of federal funds. The vast majority of the funding for this project has already been approved, but this was a cost increase that came to the COG board for approval. And the first selectman voted to table the item until there could be this meeting and a discussion with DOT about the project and about ways that this project could be facilitated to minimize the impacts. This project has been many years in the making, but back 2 years ago in 2021, it was conceptual, and now the towns are feeling the full impact of the bridge project, and that the necessity to make sure that we get this roundabout right to minimize any additional damage or inconvenience or problems for Tylerville and those people traveling over from East Haddam. So that's why it's important. If you have ideas, particularly in the presentation, they want to put in time limits for the contractors of when they can and can't shut down the travel lanes. Information about that would be helpful for DOT and its contractors about do those times work or do they don't work. I think is very important. And any other suggestions you may have. And if you could get that information, we can get you the information for obviously for me and for the first selectman, but also for the DOT project manager as well. So thank you for that question. Other questions or people who would like to be recognized to speak? While people are thinking of their comments or questions, I do want to thank the Middlesex County Chamber of Commerce, who has also been an active supporter of the towns and of Rivercog in trying to provide some assistance with outreach to all of you, and also in keeping us informed about the news on the bridge as new updates come about. So I want to thank our partners over at the Chamber. And let's see, I don't know if there's any additional comments from the DOT team. Or how about I don't know, the first selectman?
Yeah, I'll make one, Sam. This is Bob. Okay. I would, again, you've heard it 2 or 3 times, but I'd like to echo it. Please, if you have any comments on how you think this should be scheduled, if you think of anything after the meeting, the hour Sam talked about, please, I'm sure Irene will be happy to get them emailed to her, or if you're in Haddam, email them to me, and we will take those forward through the COG into DOT.
And for people who weren't in attendance tonight, this meeting was recorded, and we will be sharing the link to the recording. So if you know people who are interested in this, who have a business owner or property owner in this area who weren't able to attend, we will be sending out that link to the email list that where you got the link originally to register for this event. So, and also we can get this posted publicly, so you can share that with anyone who you think should be able should see it and could potentially give us some feedback that would be useful. Okay. Well, if there aren't any more questions or no other speakers, I would like to thank oh yeah, go ahead, Joe.
So in essence, since we're proceeding towards advertising, so I'd kindly ask that you reach out to your local elected official, kind of give them how you feel about our various alternatives, so that they can inform us by July 31st, so we can make sure that we can get that language into the contract, so that the contractor is aware of that when they're bidding. Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to thank both Joes who for the contributing and their presentation, and all the other staff at DOT who were able to attend this evening, and for all of you for participating and attending. So what I am going to do is I'm going to put my my email address. It's very simple. It's sgold@rivercog.org in the chat. You can also reach out to Irene or Bob, and we will get this recording and the link for that out to you so you can share it with anyone else you think that might be interested. So yeah, so if you have ideas of how this project could be phased, or other comments about the roundabouts, please get those to us, and we will bring this up with DOT. So anyway, well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you taking this 45 minutes out of your summer evening, although, you know, we live in the rainforest these days, so maybe we're not missing out too much from being outside. So thank you again.
Thanks, everybody.
All right,
Thanks, everyone.